How's it going, everybody? It is the Bryan and Vinny Show. An unlikely opening for everybody, but we are still getting back into the swing of things. Vinny is not in the studio, but he is on the show. He is at home.
We're weeks away.
What do you mean we're weeks away?
I missed 2 shows.
No. Yeah, Vinny's on the show, everybody. I can't remember the last time he was on or off. Were you on? You were on Thursday? Or no, you weren't. You weren't.
No,
that was the night you were.
Since been 10 days since I did a show with this.
Christ,
with these people.
Well, I hope you're not expecting a paycheck this month.
Of course not.
Vinny was not on the show. For those of you that some of you may not have gone on the board or read any updates or anything like that. So this may be news to you. But the reason that Vinny was not on the show is I mocked and belittled him throughout the show for not being around and suggested he had been mugged or killed in New York. At that moment, as this was occurring, Vinny was apparently at the police station having been mugged.
Well, it's not mugged.
Pickpocketed.
My pocket was picked.
Your wallet was mugged.
I was a victim of crime.
That sucks.
Well, it does. That's true.
What happened, Vince?
I don't recommend it to anyone if you can avoid it.
Tell me what occurred. Tell the fans. Tell our friends what happened to you.
My fiancée, Bridget, and my sister and her husband, we went to a Broadway play, an off-Broadway play, actually, a one-woman show about the test called The Testament of Mary. It's about Jesus' mother reacting to his crucifixion. She doesn't take it very well. But we're on the subway headed home, and the very last
that's the whole that's the gist of the play. Jesus' mother does not react well to the crucifixion.
That really, actually, yes, that is the gist of it. She's recapping the story of her son and his life and the strange people he hung out with, and then the very, very terrible end of it.
A hell of a storyline.
Yes.
All right, go on.
It was a grieving mother is what it came down to. So we're getting on the subway to go home, back to their home in Brooklyn. And the very last things I did before getting on the subway was A, I took the subway pass card out of my wallet, ran it through so I could get into the turnstile, and then put my wallet in my pocket. And B, I sent you a text and then put my phone into my pocket. So I had them both right before I got on the subway.
Let me read. Let me read the last text that I got from Vincent Verhey before this crime occurred, just so everybody can get a sense of what happened. He says, Smolik, you're talking about your tickets, actually. And I'm texting you about perhaps going at 11 to do the show. And then you send, heading home, we'll check in an hour. And so I responded, okay, cool. We won't go long, maybe 30. And then about an hour later, how things? Nothing. And then about a half hour later, starting show with Granny, text if you get this within the next 30 minutes and I'll call. Presumably this text was being read by a criminal.
It's entirely possible. So yeah, we're heading down the subway line. We all get on the subway, sit down, and I am sitting next to Bridget, and there's a stranger on my right. He's up next to him. And 2 things. One, I was just not careful with my wallet and phone and left them in an outside pocket. The other key to this is that because I have very broad shoulders, I cannot sit all the way back against the back of the bench. So I really should have just stood up, but instead I leaned very far forward. And that's my pocket exposed.
Yeah.
So the stranger gets to a stop, and he leaves. Like 2 stops later, I look over at, usually when the subway, you're underground, so you can't communicate at all. So I look over at my brother-in-law, and he's sending a text or something. I thought, well, hey, if he has a signal, maybe I do. And I proceeded to search for my phone. The search was fruitless. And then I realized my wallet was also missing.
Oh, Vinny.
And I panicked. And I jumped up, and I started looking around, seeing they had fallen out. They were nowhere to be found. So, yeah, there's only one place they could be, because, as noted, I had them when I got on the subway. I sat next to one person. That person left, and after he left, they were gone.
What did this fellow look like?
Well, they don't have a very good description. When I spoke to the police, they asked, do you think you could pick him out of a lineup? And I said no. He was wearing a gray suit, middle-aged fella, possibly Asian. Couldn't promise that. That's all I got.
This has been a hell of a police sketch.
I told him, don't waste your time. The only reason I went to the police station at all, in fact, was just because I don't and do not expect to ever see any of the stuff I had on me again. But I was worried about how I would be able to get through security without my driver's license when I had to fly home. So we filed a report just so I would have that on hand in case TSA wanted to know what would happen. But we expected a cop would show up. I would tell him what went down and what was missing, and that would be the end of it. Oh no!
I hear they assigned 3 officers to your case.
3 officers came down. And by the way, before we get into the story, I don't want to. The cops were all very friendly and professional and helpful, and I have nothing but positive things to say about the police of Brooklyn. They were a huge help. The 3 of them came down to investigate this crime, to try to find the bad guy, and I ended up having to go into the station to file a report. This, of course, meant my brother-in-law had to follow me because I'm from out of town. I could have no other way to get back to his house, and his house, by the way, also on an army base, so I couldn't just walk up to it anyway. So, I had to file a report. Had to, as the cop noted, I know you've answered these questions like 5 times. I'm going to have to ask you all the same questions again. So, okay. So, the gist of this was what was missing, which came down to 1 wallet, approximately $200 in cash, 1 driver's license, 1 credit card, 1 debit card, and my phone. I think that was it. So, I actually canceled the cards and had the phone blocked by AT&T even before the police arrived. So that was all taken care of.
The phone was blocked?
Yes.
I did send you one other text, which I just realized actually never went through. And it said, I don't even know what this means. It just says, "Will call in here." Can you translate this?
I don't know what that means either.
Well, anyway,
I can't tell you.
It didn't work, so I just figured, what the hell, and I hit the little button here, and it just went through. So the criminal has now received the message, "Will call in here." So hopefully he's shaking in his boots.
Right.
I actually thought of sending a text message the next day that just said, "Fuck you, thief."
You told me you did send that. I talk to you later.
Maybe I did send it.
That was apparently, yeah. I don't know if it would have helped.
Well, it clearly didn't.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
But, so we finally got it there. It's something like 2 a.m. I sometimes have a tendency to have a meltdown.
No, come on.
I do.
Don't lie to the people.
In all seriousness, this was like I handle this all very well.
That's what your future wife said. She said she was astonished with how calm you were.
It's gone. We'll just move on. And I think the biggest part of it is because I knew what happened. I had, because there's only one possibility of where these things went. So the fact there was no mystery, I think that helped a lot. But throwing a tantrum or pouting or weeping, none of these would have been ineffective in solving the problem. So, but that being said, I was emotionally drained when this was all done. So we're leaving the station. There was a absolutely fantastic photo my brother-in-law took of myself talking to the police officer.
Yes.
That will soon be both my Twitter avatar and my Facebook front page. And I just want to go home and go to bed. And he walks out of the police station, looks across the street and says, "Hey, Popeyes is open." And next thing you know, we're over there waiting in line to buy a big bucket of chicken.
Could be worse, I guess.
Life could be worse.
I presume he paid.
He did, because I could not. At that point, I had nothing. So, the next morning, first stop was to Chase, where I spoke to a man who is also very friendly, but we've, what between you and I, what is our primary exposure to Brooklyn?
Homicide.
Taz, and to a lesser extent, Bully Ray.
No, I was going to say homicide.
Yeah, him too. But yes, everyone I talked to, the police and the Powers employees and the guy who worked at Chase the next day, they all talk like that.
What a surprise!
Yes, I know. It's not a work. That's how people actually talk there. So he was he got through everything. He was very concerned about how I was going to get home. He was very concerned about what my losses were. He was very happy I had canceled the card. He said, "Thank the Lord." Oh, that was a horrible impression. Thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord, your banker said.
Yes, repeatedly. With his slicked back hair and his 3-day stubble and his suit. So he eventually I answered some security questions. I knew some prior addresses I had lived at. I knew what the last 2 or 3 transactions with the cards were. So they established it was me. They gave me some cash so I would have walking around money. And I was able to get through the rest of the week unscathed, really.
Wow.
And then the final test was actually today when I had to get home. I had to get through TSA. I've actually, as of right now, I've been back in Seattle approximately 3 hours. It's 12:26 p.m. in Seattle, which means it's actually 3:26 a.m. on my body clock. But the last test was I just had to get through security. The only photo ID I had, before my wallet was stolen, we had gone to the base to get myself a visitor's pass, which is photo ID, and theoretically I would be able to get on and off the base without my brother-in-law there. And fortunately, they had saved everything, so we went back the next day to get another one. They just printed it out and handed it to me, so I had that. So it's still kind of hinky, you know. If you're not on the base all the time, you wouldn't have recognized this, but it's got a picture on it. It's got my name on it, and we weren't sure how this was all going to turn out. And I walked to the security guy, and I handed him my boarding pass, and I handed him this photo ID, and he looked at it, he saw my pass and said, "Thanks." And that was it.
How about that?
It was actually like one of my fastest trips to security ever.
Oh. So all's well that ends well.
All's well that ends well. Yeah, it's.
Have you learned a lesson about the subway?
I have learned a lesson about personal security. Always be aware of your property. Now, I don't want to. Everyone I talked to in every local I spoke to about this said they wanted to reassure me this is a very rare occurrence. Please don't let it cloud your view of the city. Please don't assume this happens all the time. And I just want everyone to know that, I mean, I had so much fun on this trip. This trip was such a net positive. I'm not happy at all my stuff got stolen. I would greatly prefer it had not. But on the whole, it turned out to be just such a great adventure. And sometimes on adventures, things don't go smoothly.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I had obstacles to overcome. I had strife. I had stress. I had worry. I also had great fun. I also got to explore the city. Did some epic sightseeing. I saw some very fun wrestling. I hung out with a lot of fun people. And I spent a ton of money. And I am very happy to be home.
Now, if I recall correctly, you in fact only went to 2 wrestling shows.
I went to the Ring of Honor show on Friday night, and I went to WrestleMania itself.
Now, go on.
This whole trip came about very late in the process for me. I didn't want to go specifically because my family lives there, and I didn't want to have to split time between family and the wrestling stuff. And then, my fiance, for a Christmas present from a friend who works for an airline, got us buddy passes, which means we could fly 2 people round trip. Came to something like $250.
I need to talk to this person.
Yeah, so it helped a lot. And then the other factor is that we were looking at when the passes expired and when we could go, and when Amy was available, Amy being my sister. And then Bridget started saying, "Well, we should stay for at least a week." I said, "Well, if we're staying for a week, I'm going to WrestleMania." And that was that.
And the rest was history.
So, the rest was history.
What happened with your, speaking of, I don't know if we've told this story. This is the story, everybody, of the life of Vinny. You forgot your ticket.
I forgot my WrestleMania ticket. In fact, right as we speak here right now, it's still in the glove box of my car. Yeah, everyone, this really is just the life of Vinny. This is what it's like for me. I will fly across the country 3,000 miles and forget my ticket to the big event. So yeah, it's actually, it was Wednesday night, and I was actually just off the lights going to bed, and it suddenly hit me, hey, There's no WrestleMania ticket here. I know exactly where it is and where I left it, and I forgot to bring it on this trip. So next day, woke up. I had bought a ticket from our buddy Ken, the fine attorney in the Florida area. For any of you with legal problems, please contact Ken Hesser. Let me find the exact name of his law firm so you can all call him and send him scabs of money. But anyway, so he contacted Mr. Smolik on the board, who had bought all of these tickets for the group. And Smolik contacted the ticket people, and they explained that it was possible to get a reprint, but you have to get it on the Sunday. So he came to my rescue, and frankly, it was really simple. They printed out a new ticket. He got it, and when I got to the place on Sunday, he gave it to me, and that was it. So I understand there is some controversy about Smolik. I just going to say that I will not abide a negative word said about this man. He is a scholar. He's an outstanding gentleman who went out of his way to assist me when I was in need of help.
Which was often, apparently.
Yes.
He didn't help you with your wallet, though.
But that was not his problem.
Any other doom befall you?
Beg your pardon?
Any other doom befall you?
Surprisingly, no. By the way, schathesser.com, SCHATTHESSER.com, attorneys at law. Their ad here, first thing is they'll help you with your bankruptcy. They will also want to know if you were injured in an accident, or if you have a problem with construction law. There's apparently there are 3 areas of specialties. You can talk to J. Theodore Ted Schatz or Kenneth M. Ken Hesser, and they will save your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a plug that was. So,
my cat has just jumped under a blanket.
This is the last time you're ever doing this show from your house.
How dare you? Come on.
Massively distracted.